Hey everyone, welcome back. We get a lot of requests asking us to take a deep dive into how cities are using technology to become smarter and more sustainable.
It's definitely a hot topic these
For
days.
sure. And you know what? Miami is doing some seriously cool things in that arena.
Absolutely.
So we dug into a recent report from Miami Real AI News about the Smart City Expo Miami. And let me tell you, there's so much to unpack.
Right.
It's fascinating. It
Yeah.
really is. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's clarify something. What exactly do we mean when we say smart city? Because it sounds kind of, well, futuristic and maybe even a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, I can see why people might think that.
Mhm.
I think the Smart City Expo actually did a great job of addressing that. They weren't just showcasing futuristic concepts.
It was about practical solutions.
Right, exactly. Like, how can we use technology to tackle the challenges cities are facing right now? And they really emphasize that these solutions aren't limited to just one city or country.
Yeah. I read that the expo had participants from 11 different countries.
That's right. Plus thousands more joining online.
Wow.
So it's a truly global effort to build these cities of tomorrow.
And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because the challenges that cities face, like
Yeah.
climate change, for example, those are global issues.
Exactly. And this push for smarter cities, I think it really couldn't come at a more crucial time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing the impacts of climate change every day, right?
Huh?
And cities are on the front lines of those impacts. So finding ways to make them more resilient, more sustainable, it's not just a nice to have anymore, it's essential.
It feels like we're at a turning point
I think so too.
where we have to adapt.
And technology is going to play a huge role in that.
Definitely. Reading through this report, it seems like AI was the real star of the show at the expo.
Oh, absolutely. AI is everywhere these days, and cities are realizing it's not just a buzzword.
Right. It can actually make a difference.
Huge difference. Although I will say,
Hmm.
it's not just about, putting sensors in everything.
Yeah, it's about the data, right?
Exactly. That's what we do with all that data.
Speaking of data and AI, I got to ask you about this stat. Jonathan Reichenthal, AI expert, he was at the expo,
I
right?
think I saw his name on the list, yeah.
Well, he shared this crazy stat. 75% of workers are already using generative AI.
Wow, 75%. That's incredible.
I know. And I'll admit, before this deep dive, I wasn't even totally sure what generative AI was.
Really? Well, now, generative AI, it's basically
Like, is it robots writing poems?
kind of, well, not quite robots, but algorithms. They create new content, text, images, even code.
So, based on what? How do they even...
They learn from massive amounts of data.
Mm.
It's like, imagine having a super-powered creative assistant.
Okay, so like I give it a topic and it writes a song.
Exactly. Or designs a building. Or writes marketing copy.
Wild. But how are people using it in their jobs, like right now?
Well, architects use it for designs based on, say, energy efficiency.
Makes sense.
Marketers, like we said, for ad copy.
Time saver. But Miami's not just talking about this stuff, right? They're using it.
Oh, absolutely. They are way ahead of the curve.
Or like with the crime prediction thing in Coral Gables, I read about that. But
Yeah.
how...
Right. Sounds like something out of Minority Report. But basically, they feed historical crime data to an AI.
Okay, so like dates, times, locations of past crimes.
Exactly. Plus, things like weather patterns, even social media activity.
Wait, social media?
Yep, it can all be relevant. And the AI looks for patterns.
To predict where a crime might happen?
Exactly.
And then what? They put more police there.
That's the idea. It's about allocating resources effectively, being proactive.
Wow. So instead of just reacting to crime, they're trying to stop it before it happens.
Exactly. And that's just one example. They're also using AI to analyze climate data.
To get ahead of things like hurricanes.
Hurricanes, flooding, heat waves. They're using historical data to anticipate future challenges.
It's like they have a crystal ball. That's amazing.
It's pretty incredible. And it's not just about reacting to problems either. They're also using AI to understand what residents need and want
Wait, really? How?
by analyzing things like social media posts, local news articles.
So they're using AI to listen to residents.
In a way, yes. It's about creating a more responsive city government.
That's pretty cool. That's incredible. So they're using AI to actually listen to what residents want and need.
It's pretty amazing stuff.
It really is. But with all this talk about AI and data, it makes you wonder, how are they making sure all this benefits, actual people?
You're hitting on a really important point. It's easy to get caught up in the tech, right?
Totally.
But we can't forget about the human element.
Right.
And I think the folks down in Miami, they get that. The Expo, they actually put a lot of emphasis on something called human-centered urban design.
Human-centered urban design. Okay, I like the sound of that, but what does that even mean?
Well, it's basically about using technology to make people's lives better.
So not just about efficiency and all that.
Exactly. It's about creating cities that are livable, enjoyable.
I can get behind that. Did they give any examples at the expo? Like, what does that look like in the real world?
Well, one of the speakers, Angela Monzi, she had this great quote. She said, "You are part of nature. You are not apart from nature."
I love that.
Right. And it really speaks to this idea of creating cities that feel connected to the natural world.
So more parks and green spaces.
Yes, absolutely. But it goes beyond that.
Okay, yeah, like what?
Thinking about things like walkability, access to public transportation, creating those inviting public spaces.
Where people can connect. Yeah.
Exactly. It's about designing cities for people, not just for cars.
Right. Because we always hear it's one or the other, right? Like, we can have technological progress or we can have a good quality of life.
Right. But it doesn't have to be that way.
And Miami's proving that.
Exactly. They're showing us we can have both.
This whole deep dive has been so fascinating. I mean, we talked about AI predicting crime.
Right. And tackling climate change.
And startups like that Sargassum Eco Lumber Company, turning seaweed into building material.
Such a cool idea.
And through it all, it's this focus on people, you know? It's really inspiring to see how Miami is shaping the future.
Absolutely. And the best part is other cities can learn from them.
Exactly. So it makes you wonder, what could our cities look like if we embraced these same ideas, right?
It's an exciting thought.
It really is. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Miami's tech scene. Thanks for joining us, and keep those imaginations running. Who knows what amazing things are just around the corner.